Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Gargoyles episode reviews. Today we're looking at City of Stone Part 2. It's up to David Xanatos to save himself and Fox, who's now a statue, from becoming charcoal in a chopper crash. But his troubles are just beginning. Demona's spell turned almost the entire population of New York City to stone. The Gargoyles are in the same boat, with Elisa turned to stone. They find help from an unlikely source. Meanwhile, Demona roams through the city, blasting people to dust with her laser rifle. Macbeth is also on the hunt. He's remembering how all this began for him and how it ended for the hunter. This is only part 2 of 4, so the action is heating up. Xanatos and Demona will face off, as will Demona and Macbeth. To make things even more interesting, 3 Fae are nudging events to benefit themselves. Lost? Well, you better read or watch part 1 of City of Stone. Spoilers of the 2020 moments. Ask Greg. Info is in the according to Greg Bits. Season 2, Episode 10, City of Stone, Part 2, Reasons for Existence, to continue the histories of Demona and Macbeth, to show that Xanatos can play the hero well when he wants to introduce the truce between Xanatos and Goliath, to prove they can work together, to pit Demona and Macbeth against each other, to reveal more about the Weird Sisters plot, to explore the theme of vengeance and its horrible consequences. Main antagonists: Demona, the Hunter, Duncan. Times: November 10th and 11th, 1995, and 10/32/80. Locations: New York City, New York, Castle Moray, Edinburgh Castle, unnamed locations in Scotland. Here we open on another city sky line here at night. Terrain: pull up. Gotta love a man who thinks fast. We open on House Xanatos' predicament. Fox is the pilot, and she's turned to stone at the controls. David uses his own mad chopper skills to stick a tense but perfect landing. He switches control over to his side of the chopper and manages to pull up. Look at that. Set her down in probably the only chopper-sized spot for miles. Look at all the dust kicked up by the blades. Not a scratch. He remarks, any landing you can walk away from. It's a nod to Launchpad McQuack from DuckTales. Brooklyn says it back in her brother's keeper when they crash Hyena and Jackal's chopper. I like to think Xanatos knew he was quoting Launchpad. It makes things more amusing. Then he points out the silver lining. Fox isn't chipped. Even her accessories here turn to stone. I guess it's because she considers them part of her. That's the explanation I've heard bandied about anyway. Now, he recovers pretty darn quick from all this, and that is just another reason why he's such a great character. It's all fun and games until he hops out and looks around. The sidewalks are filled with statues. The streets are filled with wrecks after people turned to stone at the wheel. Not much surprise as Xanatos. His fiancée turning into Werefox was a bit startling, but he was suspecting that. He's apparently not suspecting this. Now he is flat out gaping with shock as he looks around. What can you say to all this at this point? Oops. Yeah, he knows it's from Demona. This makes me wonder if he thought just Fox and maybe Owen. He doesn't know Owen's stone, but it did get cut off their phone call. Were affected in Demona's betrayal. Why would she do that to them? He's probably wondering. Sure, he knows she hates humans, but he's different. This kind of stuff only happens to other people, right? And there's a little bit of his view with everybody turned to stone. And this would be what's got him speechless. There's some people sitting at a cafe table with food in front of them and a pigeon sitting on the guy's head. Why is there a pigeon out at night? They have horrible low-light vision. Like, seriously. Recovering quickly, as you'd expect him to, he notes that he and Demona, quote, need to have a little talk. And there's no use hailing a cab. No use stealing one either, with the streets a mess, so he matter-of-factly grabs his heavy-duty laser rifle, the same one he used to shoot at the Pax heli from back in her brother's keeper, from the chopper, and sets off across town. I think I would have at least tried to grab a bike from a statue. Yeah, like, I don't know how far away he is from the Pack Media Studios. Well, situations always feel better when you're taking positive action, and when you're carrying a giant laser rifle. At the moment, he doesn't have the time or the interest to think about how his bid to extend his life cost others theirs, and he doesn't even get an extra minute of life out of it all. Demona is at fault, not him, in his mind anyway. She tricked him. He wasn't trying to hurt anyone. Had he known this was how things would turn out, he'd never have done it. He's sure not going to admit just yet that maybe it was a huge, giant, megalithic mistake to trust Demona with enough power to cast a spell over the entire city. There's the streets totally trashed. And he and his rifle stroll off through the chaos. Don't get to do that every day. Yep, right up the middle of the street in New York. That is a pretty cool scene. See no evil. There's Broadway, Lexington, and Brooklyn looking at Stone Elisa, and there's Brooklyn petting her face. You've always wanted to do that ever since you first sniffed her, haven't you, Brooklyn? Meanwhile, the Gargoyles are discussing the statue of Elisa. They don't know what it is, but something's fishy. Broadway and Bronx stay to guard it just in case. Everyone else flies to Jeffrey Robbins' house. They comment at how quiet things are. No horns or traffic. I guess Robbins was the next best choice because he's a human and maybe would know what's going on in the human world, but I mean, just turn on the TV. I mean, that's usually what they do. Surprised Hudson hasn't been doing that already. I think Gilly and Bronx would get along. There's Robbins and Gilly opening the door. Okay, slow down. The clock tower isn't a busy part of town. How do you get all the way from there to Robbins's without seeing statues and noticing that no cars are moving, and then going down to investigate? They notice the statues once they land. I guess the order of events or discoveries flows better with the story this way. Robbins and Gilly meet the others and welcome Hudson. Hudson puts a hand on Jeff's back. Surely the man has to know Hudson isn't human when he does that. Or maybe he thinks that Hudson's just deformed. Robbins takes the circular route to mention the Demona broadcast. Remember, Jeff is blind, so he can't see the statues or Demona. As soon as Goliath sees it, he has Lex muted. No need to guess why people are stone. Oh, now it is on. There they are, staring into the TV, and it's like they're watching us. Hudson explains on the flight back to the city that magic only affects those who see and hear it. He doesn't say it, but this sets it apart from Fey magic, which just works. So, alright, so he knew this, and he could have taught them all this, and which you probably would, because there's magic in that world of theirs. He knew this, yet he didn't close his eyes or tell anyone else to close their eyes when Magus was casting the spell on them. Okay. Side note, Gilly saw and heard the broadcast. I'd say only people who understand the words can be affected by it, but not many people understand Latin, so I'm guessing only humans are affected by the spell. What about the Gargoyles? Would it touch them? I mean, Goliath seemed to think it would, but I don't think he really wanted to take a chance with it. Smash and blast. Speaking of Demona, she's having a blast, a smashing good time. Literally. She's blasting the human statues with her laser rifle between smashing them with the mace. That means they die, right? Whoa there, S&P. I know this isn't exactly something kids can replicate, but we're seeing innocent bystanders who are completely helpless be murdered by a maniac. Oh, there the pigeons are again. Oh, and the poor business guy who is toast. I don't know. That's just really disturbing to me. They were innocent civilians. They weren't even being too stupid to live. It really shows how far down the rabbit hole of vengeance Demona has gone. She's become the exact thing she hated. A traitor who destroys helpless lives. She's even using a mace. Just like Hakon did. She's laughing and joking, too. It's disturbing. It really is. I mean, there's no gore, but it's probably even more disturbing this way. It gets worse when she blasts the arms off one statue, which I still don't know how she did with one laser shot. Will this one stay stone in the morning? Will she turn to dust? Or will she turn to flesh without arms? And what about the human rubble? Does it stay stone like the Gargoyles at the Wyvern Massacre? I hope so. Otherwise there's going to be a lot of hamburger on the street come sunup. There's Demona blasting the arms off. She quips, "Let me help you with those bags," and then she laughs right after. I think this minute or so of Demona slaughtering humans is the most graphic demonstration of the depths of her hatred toward humans. It works, since these eps will explain the roots of her rage. Demona is off to see Xanatos at Pac Media Studios, but she takes a moment to shoot Margot and Brendan. Oh, what's that, Greg? Those weren't them. Oh, sure. We'll just call it an animation, mate. Error, mate. She's in front of a hardware store. Here at Demona's Hardware, we got laser rifles, we got maces, we got rubble. If it's hard or where, we got it. Somewhere in the sky, Macbeth is on his cool VTOL craft. His computer has tracked down the source of the broadcast. It's PMS. Oops. Better hope the cops don't have the same tracking ability. But Xanatos Enterprises will just say somebody snuck in and misused the override equipment. And then again, I wonder how legal it is to have that capability in the first place. I'm sure there's a law against it on the books somewhere. Macbeth is wearing the hunter's hood. Soon, Demona, soon, he promises. How does he see out of that thing? Is it mesh? 1032 AD. Flashback. Demona and the hunter are fighting. Disney XD edited out the punch the hunter lands. I'm not sure how Macbeth is remembering this since he wasn't there. Maybe he heard about it secondhand. And this has a picture of the hunter standing on a rock with his sword up in the air. This is after Demona glides off. He thinks he's in a fantasy novel cover. Next, we visit Castle Moray. Macbeth is now a strapping young man. He's trying to get Bode to let him marry Gruach, as they'd always planned. But turns out Duncan has ordered her, Duncan, okay, not Bode, to marry Gilcomgain. Yes, this comes because Duncan is a murderer and a jerk, but it's also because in real history, Bode and Gruach's ancestor was Kenneth III, 967 to 1005. Duncan's grandfather, Malcolm II, 1005 to 1032, betrayed and overthrew him. 1034. If Macbeth married her, this would strengthen his claim to the throne. Better to marry her to Gilcomgain, then. Also, it pisses Macbeth off. Serves him right for surviving, thinks Duncan. And there's Bode and Macbeth at the archery range. Ah, Bode. Can we blame him for his cowardice? He's trying to avoid problems by following the monarch's decree. Say just do what the government tells you. Back then, they didn't care who they married off their females to, so long as it benefited the family. Macbeth threatens to elope with Gruach, but Bode convinces him not to, for Gruach's sake. It would be treason anyway. Macbeth has the agonizing task of telling her to marry Gil. When she calls him on his oath to run away with her, he says she's not worth the trouble. He's doing the old go, get trick that's in all the dog and horse and other animal movies, where the kid is trying to get the animal to leave after he can't keep it. And there's Macbeth pushing her away. The animators did a great job here. He's concerned but firm. She's confused and hurt. This takes a lot of fortitude on his part. He's thinking of her, thinking in his male way that this will be better off for her. But in his own clumsy way, he's trying to make it as easy for her as possible. This scene has so much pathos. There she is walking away, and he's looking in the opposite direction. Now, we're at Gilcomgain and Gruach's wedding. She's resigned, even defeated. The guests look less than thrilled, too. I see this is going to be a happy marriage. There Gil is smiling, but she is not. Looks like she's going to her execution. 3 of the bridesmaids are, say it with me, identical except for hair color. They comment how their hero, Macbeth, doesn't look so happy. And seriously, they're everywhere. Why are they so interested in Demona and Macbeth achieving their dreams? And there's a sad Macbeth. Gilcomgain first takes Macbeth's castle, and now he takes Mac's woman. According to Garg Wiki, John Rhys-Davies, Macbeth's voice actor, wasn't happy about the change to Shakespeare's Macbeth. Then he learned that the Gargoyles version is closer to what happened in history. Turns out the king at the time, Shakespeare or Francis Bacon or whoever you want to say, wrote the play, was a descendant. According to Garg Wiki, John Rhys-Davies, Macbeth's voice actor, wasn't happy about the change to Shakespeare's Macbeth. Then he learned that Gargoyles' version was closer to what happened in history. Turns out the king at the time, Shakespeare or Francis Bacon or whoever you believe wrote these plays. Anyway, he was a descendant of Duncan. It's not wise to make the monarch's ancestors look bad by telling the truth. At the wedding, Duncan is showing off his son, Canmore. That's actually Prince Malcolm, but Greg wanted to put distance from the play and his version, so it's Canmore, which means big head, by the way. And there he's got his feet up on the table, really pleased with himself. Conspiracy is afoot again. That night, Gilcomgain, aka the Hunter, and Duncan are discussing the Macbeth situation over a goblet of wine. Duncan wants the Hunter to take out Macbeth, but Gilcomgain refuses. Or rather, he points out how if Macbeth dies, questions might arise about the death of Lord Finlay, Mac's dad. Gilcomgain is essentially blackmailing Duncan. It's quite clear when he says Duncan shouldn't risk his defiance. Looks like Gil, not Kenmore, has the big head now. And rightly so. After marrying Gruach, he's got some claim to the throne, or at least some royalty. Not bad for the scared son of a farmer. And scarred son of a farmer, for that matter. Look at the cocky grin on that guy. Buddy, you are going to be sorry. And that's Gilcomgain. Thinks he's got it all sewn up. Halftime. Since we're coming up on the middle of 4 eps, more complications are cropping up. We won't see resolution till at least the end of ep 3 for some of these threads. Overall, it's keeping my interest in the story quite well. That's sometimes hard with a 4-parter. The characters are in motion and momentum is building. We're wondering now how this marriage reversal is going to affect Macbeth and help make him the man he is today. We're also still wondering how in the heck he and Demona are still alive after 1,000 years. What's up with the 3 Fae, too? What's Macbeth planning? How do we break the spell? Why does the rest of the world not realize something's gone very, very wrong in NYC? Next week, we'll find out some of the answers. We'll also see Xanatos and Demona face off, then watch Demona take Macbeth on a flying tour of New York City. Tune in next time for the continuation. So what do you think of this half of the episode? You like where it's headed? What did you think about the marriage? So remember to comment here or on the blog. Like, share, subscribe, do all the things. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next